Hello, Carl here. Just before the episode gets started, I just wanted to say thank you for downloading, if you are still downloading. I did take a month off, and that was purely because I went back to work after 5 months of furlough, and I went from having all the time in the world to not having much time at all, and the podcast did suffer. But now I have found the balance, and we will be going back to normal. So yeah, just a quick one to say thank you very much for staying with me, if you have been staying with me, and enjoy the show.
We made this.
Cerebral Jukebox is proud to be part of the We Made This podcast network. Hello there, thank you very much for downloading this episode. My name is Bryan, and I am the world's first brain surgeon / therapist / jukebox repairman. This is Cerebral Jukebox, where a guest tells me about a song they found so catchy it stuck on their head on repeat. We have a bit of a chat about it, then I give them a choice to remove it from their internal memory forever, or they can keep it for prosperity. My guest today is an artist that creates pop culture inspired work under the name Gutsprung. She is also the vocalist from Derby-based garage noise pop party Pet Crow, whose second album, Take the Edge Off, is available on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you do listen to your music. It's Danielle Ross. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for coming on. Did I get everything right there in your introduction?
You did.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was spot on.
I wanted to
Thank you for mentioning the art as well. That was really sweet.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that as well. Let's crack on straight into it, because there's a lot to talk about with this song. Which song is it you've picked for me today?
I've picked Charlotte de Santos, Red Clay.
Okay, let's play a quick clip.
That I know what to throw away, what to keep my hands on, 'cause you were all like red clay.
So, a couple of quick facts about this song. There is quite a bit to go with this song. Charlotte de Santos is a Brazilian-Norwegian singer and composer who studied jazz in Boston. On a gap year in Valencia, she learnt how to arrange Mediterranean music, and then she studied Spanish medieval history and art. Dos Santos, in her own words, fell in love with the idea of a woman being in power, ruling all of these incredible cities, and it was from this inspiration that led her to the writing of the album that this track comes from, which is called Cleo, that got released in 2017. This version of Red Clay is a cover of an instrumental by jazz guitarist Jack Wilkins from the 1973 album Windows, with added vocals from it by Dos Santos. However, in doing the research for this, we found out that Wilkins' version of the song is also a cover, the original being from jazz trumpeter Freddie Hubbard's 1970 album of the same name, and the original track also features Herbie Hancock and George Benson as part of the ensemble. So, what is it about this track for you, Danielle, which obviously it's lasted throughout the years, that really hooks you in and gets stuck in your head?
Everything. Seriously, everything. Like that drum beat at the beginning, the bass line, it's just all super catchy. Her voice is just incredibly seductive, and we've said ourselves as well, like really dreamlike. It's just one of those songs. It's just like, it's an all-around just great track. And to be honest, I didn't know that it was a cover. I'd been listening to it over and over and over again. And Chris had actually told me about the fact that it was a cover of Jack Wilkins. And then when I spoke to you about it, we found out about Freddie Hubbard. And I believe it's also been sampled by a Tribe Called Quest too. So it's obviously a well-loved song all around. But yeah, it's just one of those tracks. Her vocals are just insane, and it's just there all the time.
I mean, we going through this show in the previous episodes, I think a thing that surprised me is people have come to us with songs that have been stuck in their heads, and rather than being sort of like pop bangers or something like that, a lot of the time they have been the dreamy sort of swayy songs in a lot of cases. What is it about that sort of style of musical arrangement do you think it is that got in your head especially? Is it the hummability of it, or
it's the sing-along ability of it, I think, for me, personally. I absolutely adore singing along. I mean, don't get me wrong, I totally destroy it. But it's just so pleasant to sing, and all of her melodies are just so lush. And they flow so beautifully, and that on top of a track that's already in its own right catchy and amazing, and just it's got to be that. I've not really thought about it in that respect, but it has to be that, because it's just so fun to sing. And I know that we talked a bit about the sort of the elongated end of the word clay. It sort of goes round and round and round, and it's just like, wow, like it's just beautiful. You just want to do it. You just want to do it yourself.
Yeah, it grabs your attention, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
It's something that it's sort of, whereas before you'd be going like, when you do hit that clay, like, ooh, it gets you and brings you into it a bit more.
Yeah, you feel like totally cool by association as well. Like, do you know what I mean? When you listen to it, it's like,
Yeah. Can you remember when you first heard the song?
Do you know what? I don't. It must have been like later part of last year. I think I just had like a neo soul playlist of mine on Spotify, just sort of, just playing on random. And I have the setting where it, continues to play songs that are like the playlist that you're listening to, and that came up. And, very often that's in the background, and unless something really catches me, it just stays there. It's just music sort of playing along while I'm doing housework or whatever. But this one in particular, I had to sort of stop what I was doing and get to it, find out who it was, and, see what else she'd done and find out a little bit more about her as well. And she's incredible. Like, I'm totally in love with her now as well.
I mean, just from going off what we're talking about there, it's sort of in her gap year, she learnt how to arrange Mediterranean music, and then went off and studied both Spanish medieval history and art in a gap year.
Yeah.
When you're not really supposed to be doing anything.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. That's just nuts, isn't it? Like, and she's got so many influences, and I read a little interview with her, and she was saying that, she's got like Southern American influences. She's got a jazz and a neo soul, but she doesn't, and hip hop, but she doesn't feel the need to sort of throw all of those influences in. It's just whatever she feels is true to her and genuine to what she wants to do herself musically. Because I had another read into stuff, because I thought, oh, maybe she's added lyrics to other tracks that existed, and she did. She had, apparently, I've not listened to it yet because I did find this out just before we chatted. But she did another add of melody and lyrics to Shuggie Otis' Stay. So I'm really, really looking forward to trying to listen to that and see what that's like now. But maybe she's onto something here, and she should go running with that for a bit, and maybe just do a one-off sort of covers compilation where she's just adding lyrics to, beautiful instrumental songs. She's obviously got a knack for it.
Yeah, it obviously works. But even, excuse me, even so, I think if you go on a YouTube channel, she does one where she's completely a cappella.
Yeah,
so
man,
even without
so
the
gorgeous.
music, it's still really beautiful and haunting, isn't it? It's
so much, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll put something I'm going to mention now is now we've got to a certain number of episodes, I'm putting a YouTube playlist out.
Oh, sweet.
With performances of the songs, not necessarily the music videos, but performances that people will find interesting. And I'm going to put that one in for this one.
Beautiful, yeah, that's a really good one.
Did this fit in with what you were sort of listening to at the time anyway? Did this fit into your general kind of...
So it was a neo soul playlist that I'd made, because at the start of lockdown I was like, I haven't had time to make playlists for a long time. Sort of reverted back to my teenage self and just spent a few days making playlists of different genres, just for different moods or whatever.
I've done that as well.
Yeah, it's so fun though, isn't it? It's like I forgot how great it is just to sit there and just get immersed and remember all these old tracks that you forget about because life.
I did an early 90s playlist of stuff that from like pre-Britpop sort of era, pre sort of 92, and there's some crackers on there that just don't get remembered.
Yeah, that's so good. You're gonna have to share that with me. I'm totally up for listening to that. So I guess I'm trying to think what's on it. So there's some Cleo Sol, Erykah Badu, Bilal, D'Angelo, just stuff that's definitely within the same vein, but I just never heard of her before, so I'm almost it wouldn't have come up if I hadn't have spent hours rattling through loads of old music and making a playlist and time wasting essentially.
Well, we were talking earlier on that she's got all these influences, but she doesn't feel the need to show them in her music that she produces herself. Now, yourself, you are a musician and vocalist. I mean, you could argue that Pet Crow. I mean, your voice is if you don't mind me saying so, your voice is very smoky and very sort of. I like your voice. It's very it's nice to listen to.
Thanks.
If you get what I mean, but it does still have the punch of doing sort of garage, sort of punk sort of stylings. Do you feel that you, in the same way, because you do music that's quite different from what you listen to in some cases, somewhat similar to Santos, and that you don't bring across your influences that much in the music you produce, or do you feel that you are integrating it in there? Or
I think it must naturally integrate in there somehow. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what does, but just through being obsessed with music from an extremely young age. My dad used to put headphones on me and sit me by the record player to stop me crying because he didn't know what to do with me. So it's just like, it's been such a huge part of my life. And I think in terms of Pet Crow, I guess I sing in the way that it suits the song. So the song's usually there, and just whatever sort of fits. So I'll be maybe more monotone and lower if it's a moody kind of sounding song, but I don't put a lot of thought into it. I just sort of treat my voice like an instrument and try and see where it fits and how I can fit it into what's available to me. That makes sense.
I mean, there's this. I normally ask if this kind of influenced your listening going forward, but obviously you were listening to quite a bit of the sort of the neo soul beforehand. I mean, has this opened up to more artists for you from just sort of going through? We talked about how you found the Jack Wilkins and then you found the Freddie Hubbard, both versions of which I should say. Whereas the Jack Wilkins one is very, very close to what you hear in the DeSantis track, the Freddie Hubbard one is really quite different.
It's so great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 12 minutes, and it's fantastic.
It just goes through so many different styles within such a short space of time as well, doesn't it? It's like, it's a 12-minute song, but that first part of the song, you're sort of kind of waiting for it to all kick in, and it's super exciting. And to be honest, I hadn't heard a lot of Freddie Hubbard stuff. I know that he's a really renowned trumpet player and he's a favourite of many, but I didn't know a lot of his stuff. So I did go on a bit of a rabbit hole in terms of watching YouTube videos and things like that, and just immersing myself into it that day that you sent me the link for it. I was like, wow, okay, I need to know more about this for sure. But I think Jack Wilkins, I'm sure a lot of his music's been sampled. I'm not entirely sure what and who by, but it makes sense for sure. Like hearing more of his stuff, especially, why wouldn't you?
I mean, he did a bit of a deep dive on him just for while I was looking for this episode. He joined a lot of other people's bands.
Right. Did he do something with Dizzy Gillespie?
I don't know, but he played a lot with Buddy Rich.
Oh, sweet.
But I'm sure he probably did wind up doing stuff with Dizzy Gillespie, because just looking at his discography, there's a huge pile of stuff which is him as a band leader, and then there's a massive pile of stuff of him as a featured player. So his crossover must have just been ridiculous. So I bet we've heard a lot more Jack Wilkins than we think we have.
That's so true. I'm actually really looking forward to going on another rabbit hole after this conversation. Good job I haven't got any plans today.
Yeah. I think it's been quite good doing this podcast in lockdown, because a lot of people have spent quite a bit of time sort of going through. I'm going to finally get around to listening to my to listen to playlist on Spotify and things like that. I know I've got about 30 albums that I keep saying I'm going to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're the same, Carl. I imagine you are, because obviously, you're a fan of music yourself. But I've been going through text messages and WhatsApp messages from people that are sending me links to albums that, they said I will dig and I will listen, and said you should listen to this. And I just never have time. So I've kind of gone through loads of text messages as well, trying to find all of these albums that people have recommended to me and slowly getting my way through those.
Oh yeah, I can probably recommend a couple to you that I think you'll really like.
Amazing, thank you.
Okay, Right, so as we do every episode, and I think I know what the answer is going to be for this, I do offer to have this song removed from your Cerebral Jukebox, or you can keep it. Danny, what would you like to do?
I want to keep it forever and ever and never get bored of it.
Excellent, not a problem at all. Okay, so that's another one for the keep pile. So where can people find you online, Danny?
So my artwork's on Etsy. Under the name Gutsprung, and the Pet Crow stuff is on all of the usual digital platforms, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, etc.
Perfect, right. Well, Danny, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was Danielle, and I really, really enjoyed that one. Danielle is one of my favourite people to talk to in general. And the podcast actually was just part of a much longer conversation that went on for about 3 hours, just about life and lockdown and everything in between, but obviously we didn't record that. So yes, do check out Danielle. She's got a lot of different things going on with Pet Crow. Also, she's got Gutsprung, where she's creating pieces all the time. I'll put all the links and everything in the description of this episode, so do go check her out. Well, that is pretty much it for this one. So if you do want to join in the conversation, you can join in on Twitter at Cerebral Jukebox. Also, you can find me if you go to allmylinks/Mr. Excuse me, I got that wrong there. allmylinks.com/Mr. Carl, and it's the unabbreviated MISTER. Again, I'm very sorry for the delay. I am booking more episodes as we speak, so hopefully it shouldn't happen again. It's good to be back. Stick around after the sting for more shows that are coming up on the We Made This podcast network. But until the next track, you have yourself a good one.
Elsewhere on We Made This. Frame to frame.
And one of the things that is often levelled at Christopher Nolan is that he has sort of cold and feeling films about men. What do you say to those?
Well, not in the case of Memento, no. As I said earlier, I think it uses narrative technique to paint a deeply troubling and emotional story of a man who is on a crusade of his own making, and it's unsettling, and it is very, very moving.
I'm in a band podcast.
I just want to say Rob Halford is a hero for being in Judas Priest and also running Halford's The Mechanical Empire.
No way, is that where? That's his.
That is his, yeah.
Is that actually his?
Yeah, that's not true. Is that true?
That's fake news, guys.
Oh, wow. Fictional fact.
Dude, you sold that.
That is a fictional fact.
Sold that.
That's a fictional fact.
It's a fictional fact, yeah.
Fictional.
Yeah.
I like fictional facts.
I like fictional
Essentially, I like lies. Motion pictures. It tries to do something fresh and interesting, and there was a real backlash to it because what people wanted from that trilogy was Luke Skywalker to be the, become Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's what they wanted,
But Isn't that, though, aren't we giving too much credence to a very vocal, admittedly, section of the fan base, who didn't like it, and for all the reasons you're talking about? But like we say, I think the film creatively, like you said, is very strong too. Did a general, film goer pay as much attention to those things as the people who kind of shout and rave about it online?
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.